in terms of feedback, what they're currently seeing in the reports, what their common mistakes are, and what they can improve. So first, let's have a discussion about that. And then Kim, probably, I'm not sure if you can show something on your screen in terms of reports, but then we can also see from what we got from the coaches to see, okay, this is good feedback, this is something that can be improved. And then afterwards, we can do the reports that Vas mentioned so that we can have some real-time information. And also in terms of the fact that for a professor, when you're turning in your document as a student, it's very different for a university and for a business. So basically, your report is eventually ending up with the business, in this case, with the client. But in terms of grading, that is done by the professors. So in this case, in terms of the title page, in terms of the executive summary, there are some slight changes. And Bas already mentioned something in his videos and in his training modules, how to actually align those criteria to your report. But we will go over that this webinar. Kim, do you have access to your computer with things that we can see, or should we just start with the general feedback from the coaches?
I'm trying to get my access. So.
Well, in the meantime, if you're trying to get your access, we will just start with the general feedback from all the coaches. So if there's any coach that wants to speak up, because currently I'm on my phone, so I have to check the participants. But if there's anybody that wants to speak up and share their experience, how they gave feedback, what they saw, what the common mistakes were according to them, and what they mostly said in those reports in their weekly reviews on how to improve this.
Hey, I like to take this opportunity. My name is Ankur.
Hi, Ankur.
Hey, okay. The first thing as a common feedback that I've been giving across all the report is the formatting. Okay, so reports are basically inconsistent formatted. As you read through, maybe the headers are different, the bullet points would change, it's not even properly formatted. Okay, some margins, extra pages. So these are the points that student can actually look into. The second thing is, giving facts or any referencing without any citation of the sources. So the entire idea appeals, but it appeals to be a very weak point. Okay, so I don't deny the idea, but if the facts and all the figures are being cited with the proper source, I think it makes all the information more credible.
Okay, that's a very valid point. In terms of formatting, do you have any suggestions how to actually align those to make it a little bit more readable?
So if we can try to give, so my approach, what I think, to give a proper example of a good formatting report as well as bad formatting report. So that student have, correct way what to do and what not to do specifically. And these two set of reports could actually serve. So provided that, we have been given guidelines, how to format based on font, family, what bullet points to use and everything. But these examples could serve as guidelines to students and to better understand those guidelines with an example for each of those.
If I may intervene here, because you raised a very important question before I go. One, I just shared with you all a link to the folder that contains winning reports from the last semester. So if you wanted to see some good formatting, so I believe there were like 10 winning teams. And so we have a link and you can review those. And I think you had access to that before, but in case you missed, you have the link now. It's in the comments. And second, we did a couple of studies on this formatting. So it seems like the visual appeal of the reports plays a huge, huge role. In fact, it may even play, unfortunately, it may even play a bigger role than the quality of the ideas. And the reason for that, according to our studies, is that when the professors as well as when the clients receive a stack of reports, I mean, like 50 reports, that's like this much paper. So just reading all of that would be impossible. And so what happens, brains sort of resist poor formatting because it takes more time to read it. It's, you know, it's more difficult to skip from section to section that is differently formatted, where you have, you know, text everywhere and, you know, poor pictures and stuff like that. And so it almost seems like even if you have brilliant ideas, but your report is poorly formatted, it will simply be not read, or it will get low grades just because, okay, I cannot understand what they're saying. It's hard to you know, to read. I'm not going to get into that, you know, deep, important things. I just give it, you know, a 3 out of 7. And so your only chance at winning the competition is to have a very nice, neat, clean, pleasant to the eye report. Then you may still not win because you will still may have, you know, I don't know, bad ideas, but at least if you have a nicely formatted report, you have a chance. Otherwise, my prediction, at least based on the reviews that we did, conversations we had with the professors, with the clients, did some surveys on that, it almost seems like poor formatting almost disqualifies you. And so making sure that everything is in the same font, making sure that the spacing is the same, making sure that you have nice charts, graphs, pictures, gives you hope that somebody will at least read it. Otherwise, not even, you know. So it's embarrassing to say, but the reality is such that when you submit a report to Xculture or a business proposal for, I don't know, to venture capitalists for funding or anything else, like a paper to your professor, chances are that unfortunately formatting will play a bigger role than the content of your presentation. Like it or not, but that's the reality. So take formatting extremely seriously.
And to add to that, it's not only for the formatting reasons why this is very important that everything is formatted in a correct way, but it's also just a standard that businesses have. If I get a report from, I don't know, from a distributor, and they basically tell me, okay, this is going to happen in your market, this is our KPIs for the next month, and those things are not formatted, it's just a professional issue. Like, I cannot spend time on a document that is not formatted, that I cannot read easily, that should be very easy to read, a one-page executive summary, which I should instantly know what is happening in that specific market by the distributor. It should be formatted. It's just a standard. It's not because it has to be visually attractive. That is, of course, a plus in the professional kind of atmosphere. But in this case, it's very important that I can read it in an instant and that I can make an active decision on it. So it's something that is very required and a kind of a standard, just like a university has a specific level that the student needs to have in order to get their degree. It's just a standard that is in place.
And if I may reiterate your point, because again, you raised probably the most important issue. Again, going back to the point that I made, that it's a lot of reports to read. One thing that you should do, in fact, must do if you want your report to be read, is the navigation. So it should be possible to scan your report quickly. And the way you do it is there are two tricks that you can play to make sure that the report is kind of quickly scannable or quickly readable. One, have a nice executive summary. And by that, I mean, like, you know, nice for the whole report, maybe like 3/4 of a page. I wouldn't go more than 1 page for sure, and try to keep it shorter. And 2, maybe have a little summary for each section. Again, nobody has time to read 25, 35 pages. But if you have quick summaries of a few lines, people will read it. They will get the idea. If they like it, they will read the rest of the section. And second tip is everything, including executive summaries, I would go with bullet lists. So you don't want to write full text paragraphs unless you really have to. But so have a lot of small sections so people can see the heading of the section and right away understand what this section is about. So if they're looking for something right there, they should be able to see it from those section titles. And then the information itself, always a good idea to present it in bullet lists. You don't even have to use full sentences, just, you know, bullet, 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 main idea. So what that does is it allows the reader to quickly navigate to the points they're interested in. Or as they're flipping pages, they will be able to pick up the section titles, the bullet points, and they will still be able to see the ideas. So if you have interesting ideas there, they will be able to see them and then maybe read the explanations if you have plain text, or maybe just have a little bit more support down the document. If you put everything in plain text, and I've seen those many times, like half of all the reports will be literally just, you know, pages of text that look like book. impossible. In order to understand what's in that report, you have to read it. Like, you literally have to read everything. And people don't have time to do that. Your boss, your investor, your professor even sometimes doesn't have the time to read every page of the 35-page report if you have 100 reports to grade. And so unfortunately, you may have excellent ideas, but if it's written as a book, text only, they'll just have no energy to do it. So summaries and bullet lists, that what gives you a chance that they will actually take a look at the ideas rather than just flip the pages and skip to the next one.
Okay.
Yes.
I have some examples here. If you would like me to show some visuals.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. So we'll start off with kind of like the basic of the basic. Okay, so this is actually what Voss was just talking about. Maybe so these are all going to be from the same team.
Exactly.
And you'll see like the different levels of kind of effort that kind of gets put in. So this is just text. A team that would submit only text. You know, it's kind of like you're submitting a school
Yeah, exactly.
an essay. You know, it's do you want to read through a million of these as a business professional trying to weed out which ones you want to take into consideration. So that's, as Voss was saying, it's hard for somebody to stand out if everybody looks like this. However, if everybody looks like this and say you actually have one step up, I'm going to go on to the next example I have here. Let's see. So this would be the next step up, okay, where you kind of have, so this still isn't quite where we would want you guys to stand. This is just if everybody else had a paragraph form and you had your heading, you had your headings, and so that's one step, and it's a little bit easier to read. It's bullet, listed, and so but still there's no citations. So I'll show you the next step up you can do. And so this is kind of where some of the more effort is getting put into now by teams. This is where you actually are starting to see visual. There's color. It's a little bit easier to read. Let's see. There are still some things that could be, adjusted, but for the most part, like they said, it was visuals that are kind of eye-catching. When you're reading through a lot of black and white, it's visuals that'll make you stand out. And then let me show you the last one, which was the winning team for this challenge last year. And that would be, one second, let me find it real quick. Is it this? Oh, sorry. Keep talking, guys, if I'm delaying you too much.
No worries, we got time.
Okay. So this would be something that a winning team would do, was you still have the SWOT analysis here, however, you'll see down here that SWOT analysis is not only, it's explained, where you have the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, but also they still put it into a table. So it's just overall, there was visual, there was explanation, it was very thorough, there was lists. So that is what a winning team would do. So you've seen the progressions where you took it from essay, then you started adding your headings and subheadings, then you started adding your bullet points and your tables, and then you start just making it overall a report. And so that's what this team ended up with. So it's still not too late to make all those adjustments, but that's just something what we want to get through.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's exactly what I wanted to say, and so nice that you showed it, Kim. That's precisely what students need to. Not only students, anyone who is ever, whoever has to submit written text for evaluation. That's the only way to go.
Yeah. And so, go ahead and continue, Tim. I'll pull up more examples.
Okay, perfect. Well, in terms of the last report that you're currently showing, just to mention to the students plus the coaches that actually are giving feedback to this, keep close attention to how the executive summary looks like this, plus how the rest of the text looks. Because in this case, if I would receive reports, I would not look at the executive summary at all. I would just take the sections. For example, right here, you see the executive summary. I would just take the table, and that's it. That's the only thing that I'm looking at. Just I check the title page, if it's interesting or not, if it catches my eye, if the title is correct, if the formatting is correct. And then once I'm past that stage, I check the executive summary, and basically if I can directly get information, it's like a story, like an event, right? So if I have a lot of employees going to one event, they are making an experience, they are sharing information, all the information that I don't know about. But if I have a meeting coming up the next day and I need that information, I don't want to have a full report, okay, this is what it's going to do, because probably I only have like 10 minutes to actually read what I need to say before I go into the meeting to make a decision with the client. So in this case, what I do is just basically have a sort of even half a page of information, and that shows me, okay, these are the points that made up the whole story in the event. So an executive summary is not just a summary basically explaining, okay, this is what's going on in the market, this is what is going to happen. It's kind of key executive decisions. So it's basically, we did our research, and from our research, which you can get later at a later stage, we will tell you that after the meeting if you want to read the whole report. But in this case, just for that 10 minutes that you need to have those active decisions, here's the key pointers of that event. Like, we met with this specific client, he is interested, you can mention him in the meeting. Or we have to have a forecast of like $5 million in order to make the decision happen with this specific client. Keep mentioning that to them so that the deal comes to a good closure, for example. Like, these kind of information points, these small bullet points, that's what makes up an executive summary in terms of a business perspective, instead of a university perspective. So there's two slight differences. In order, what I've also seen in the title page, I'm not sure because we didn't see title pages from Kim yet, but in terms of title pages, if the formatting is correct for the university kind of style where you have to put your team members, which is very nice for us to see as professors, okay, these team members actually did the work, for example. For example, in this example, you see, okay, who was in the team, what their emails were, for example. It's not specifically necessary, but in this case, it's there. And you can easily see, okay, this is very good formatted. They have visuals. It's attractive. I would like to read this. Maybe I can see what is happening in that report. If you then want to have a business kind of attractive portfolio as well, because in terms of the team, I would not be interested much. If I receive 50 reports, I would not be interested much to see, okay, these people have been in the team, because that's not going to give me a solution to my problem. So in this case, if I see this, it's just natural for me to go to the executive summary and then see what is happening. But you could have a second one. So you could have like a separate title page for the university so that you can easily see, okay, this is a handout for the university basically to grade me. And if you send the report to the business, please don't send this particular page. We have a different title page for the company so that it basically aligns with our whole report. These reports basically make sure that you really put the effort in to make sure that the company can really dive deep into your report. So there are multiple ways, but this example, I'm not sure what the black thing is, Kim, but it's in front of the report. But in this case, this is a very good example of a good formatted report with visuals to make it look attractive, no extra unnecessary information, a good title. So this would be something, and of course this was one of the winning papers, right? Like last year.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is why it was the winning document report for last year, is because the title page from the get-go, it made you look, okay, I want to look into this report. Maybe the content in the report is not that great, but you don't know that until you read it. But the first stage in this case is that the title page is the first kind of door that you're entering. Like, you have to see it as a sort of multiple doors that the company or the university goes through. And the first door is going to be how attractive the report looks to actually do something with it. And the next one is the executive summary. Maybe, Vas, you have something to add to this?
Ves?
No, you guys are like precisely. I completely agree with you, Tim. That's exactly what I would have said too. So you're absolutely right. As I said, the only thing I will say that, life's was the expression, the politically correct thing to say when you want to say life's a bitch. So meaning that life is not fair. And in many cases, unfortunately, you can be the smartest guy in the room, but if you don't know how to present it well, nobody will listen to you. And that goes for both oral presentation, but also presentation on paper. And so you, Tim, are absolutely right. Some of the tricks that you just reviewed, that's a way to stand out or at least be noticed or have a chance to be read. Even then, as I said, the idea does not guarantee, it doesn't guarantee that your idea will be liked, but at least you have a chance of your idea being read. If you just put it, as Kim put it, in black and white, just words on paper, chances are nobody will have time to read it. Not because they're bad people. I mean, I bet when you get the submissions from the students, you also, you're busy, you have other things to do, and when you have 100 submissions and some of them are easily scannable and others require 10 minutes of reading per page, you probably skip those that require a lot of reading. Again, not because you're busy, it's the reality of life. And so all we can do is just adjust it and live with it. So we will not be able to change our readers.
Yeah, and just to add something more to that while you were talking, like in terms of how the executive summary should be, like visuals is not something that makes us, it's not something that we read as a business. It's not something that we are going to grade as a university, as a professor. It's not something that makes a big difference, but it's on a psychological level, right? Like if I see something very attractive, like an apple that is really like fresh out of the garden, I will take that one over one that has been there for a couple of days, has gray spots or whatever it is, and is not, well, doesn't look tasty for me. So basically it's about the visual perspective of the report. So it's very psychological. The same thing is that I don't want to read like a long text. So if I can get a bullet point, that would be perfect for me. You can even say that you can, and I've seen reports like that. It's very uncommon, but it is a great way to actually get information out on a consistent basis where it's visually attractive as well. It's infographic. So basically, it doesn't have to be a standardized report where it has to be an executive summary, has to consist of text. Like I have had many employees of mine coming to me like, oh no, I don't have a brief for you, I don't have a note for you, but I made this infographic quickly so you can see exactly how much percent this is worth, how much percent that is worth, how much you have to invest in this, etc. So it could also be something like that. But the only thing is that visually plus formatting, that's not the only two things. The third thing actually, and that's the most important thing, is that if you do those two things, it shows that you provided effort. And the effort kind of thing makes us believe on a psychological level, if you have a good title page, if you have a good executive summary that gives me the information quickly, that it gives us the feeling basically that you put effort throughout the whole report and not just only for those two things. It could be that the content is as bad as the worst report out there for the whole semester, but we don't know that. We have to read that. But it gives us at least the feeling that the whole report has been with the same kind of effort that the first 2 pages were made. So that's also a very important point, that effort is like the underlying feeling of every single report that a professor or a business professional is reading upon.
All right. Let's see. Any questions so far? Coaches, any